Mortgage rates rose again this week, rising above 7% for the first time since 2002. Freddie Mac says the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 7.08% this week. That's up from 6.94% the week before. Mortgage rates have risen nearly every week since late August and have more than doubled since the start of the year. The rapid rise has been fueled by the Fed's unprecedented campaign of hiking interest rates to tame soaring inflation. Also, investors' recession concerns and mixed economic news has made mortgage rates increasingly volatile. And Republican Liz Cheney hopes to have influence on Capitol Hill even after voters ousted her from her seat in Congress. She's endorsed her first Democrat in a key race in Congress. Here's NTD's Melina Wisecup with more.
Congresswoman Liz Cheney says her political career is not over, and she's vowed to work against the tide of former President Trump and his supporters, even if that means working to help Democrats maintain control of Congress. Cheney has now endorsed Democrat Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin in a tight Michigan race that Republicans are trying to flip this November.
Slotkin has bucked her party's leadership and is calling for new blood in D.C. Now she's fighting to hold on to her seat in the newly redrawn 7th District, expected to be one of the most competitive House races. Her opponent, Republican State Senator Tom Barrett. Barrett has raised questions about the 2020 presidential election, joining 10 other state lawmakers back in 2021, asking the U.S. Congress to look into allegations of voter fraud. Slotkin and Cheney both serve on the House Armed Services Committee and will appear together in a campaign rally in Michigan next Tuesday.
And Congresswoman Liz Cheney is not the first Republican to endorse a Democrat over a Republican, countering Republicans' efforts to take back the House. Just a couple of days ago, Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska publicly announced that she'd vote to keep Democrat Congresswoman Mary Peltola representing Alaska's only House seat. Peltola just won a special election where she flipped the seat of late Republican Congressman Don Young. Now Republicans want to flip that seat back red. Trump was in Alaska campaigning for Sarah Palin to take that seat, but Senator Murkowski says she's voting the other way and would rather a Democrat hold that House seat over a Trump-endorsed candidate. Now, Trump has also endorsed Murkowski's opponent, Kelly Tshibaka, to replace her in the Senate. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
After securing a third term in power, Chinese Communist Party dictator Xi Jinping has spoken on U.S.-China relations. He said China is willing to work with the United States. He called for the countries to, quote, respect each other, live together peacefully, cooperate, and win-win. This is according to Chinese state media CCTV. Many in the U.S. point out that the CCP's actions don't match their talk of cooperation. For instance, stealing U.S. intellectual property, alleged forceful repatriation of dissidents, and economic coercion causing U.S. companies to self-censor. They say Xi asks for respect, while the CCP commits genocide against Uyghurs and other human rights violations like forced organ harvesting. Many corporations have come out this year and said they will cover their employees' out-of-state abortion costs. This comes after the overturning of Roe v. Wade and numerous states reimposing restrictions on abortion. To discuss corporations' move on abortion, we spoke to senior counsel at Alliance Defending Freedom, Jeremy Tedesco. Jeremy Tedesco, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Jeremy, we're seeing major corporations starting to sponsor and pay for expenses related to abortion. Beside the fact that abortion has been left to the states to decide, are these corporations doing this out of the goodness of their heart, or might there be other reasons at play?
No, I mean, I think it's very sad that abortions are rushing to pay to end the lives of women on their staff who have unborn children on the way. And they really should be looking for opportunities to help those mothers welcome these children into the world. In many instances, they're just caving to political pressure from outside groups to make a political statement by adopting these policies. They're certainly not acting out of the goodness of their hearts.
I mean, there's also the financial benefit. If you look at it for the company, they don't have to pay for parental leave, less dependence on the insurance policy. Now, I guess to your point there, what are some of the other things that corporations could be doing to embracing motherhood?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's pretty disturbing that corporations would value, saving $1 or, saving $1 over a child's life. And, in these instances, there's also many studies out there that have shown that there are incredible benefits to employers if they help women come alongside those women and help them bring these unborn child into the world. And so women want to be both moms and professionals, and studies show they can be very successful being both. And actually, there's a benefit to the workplace if workplaces come along and help them to do that. Some of the pressures that these corporations are under really just come from activist groups and activist shareholders that are demanding that they take a political stand rather than take an assessment of their business's interests, their true interests, and the interests of their own employees. Many women if they just had a little bit of help, they would make the choice to bring their unborn baby into the world. And it's really very disturbing to see these corporations try to incentivize ending that life.
Now, we're seeing recently that the Pentagon will be doing the same funding of abortion-related expenses for members of the military. Do you think this is going to drive more people to the voting booth, specifically among Christians and pro-life voters who now see that their taxes are being spent to actually aid abortion?
Well, I think there's certainly a good chance of that. There's many people in the conservative evangelical communities who care a lot about the pro-life issue and vote based on those interests. But I think the corporations and even the federal government, but especially the corporations, they're really ignoring the fact that this is a contentious issue. They have people in their workforce, they have customers, they have shareholders who have very, very diverse views about the abortion issue. And for them to choose one narrow political path for this issue and how to handle it really is a bad business choice. They're alienating their own workforce, they're alienating their customers, they're alienating their own shareholders. And from the long-term perspective, it's not smart for businesses to do that. They should be trying to understand the diverse opinions reflected throughout their organizations and act in a way that's consistent with those, or at least respects everybody's beliefs inside and outside the organization.
Now, is there any positive news on this front? Companies that are embracing motherhood, and what does that actually mean in practice?
Sure. We saw Buffer Insurance down in Texas. We saw Peter Rex, the CEO of Rex Corporation, come out with articles and policies, actual policy provisions that supported adoption and provided benefits for moms who wanted to choose life. So there's definitely clearly a path that businesses can take where they can honor life and they can take actions and adopt policies that encourage moms to welcome their unborn child into the world. And corporations need to see that there are these alternatives out there. There's actions and policies they can take if they want to be pro-life, or even if they just want to offer another alternative to their workforce, rather than just listening to this kind of one-sided conversation from activist shareholders and other government regulators who are trying to push them down the path of taking a very narrow political position on the issue of abortion.
Jeremy Tedesco, really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks very much.
President Biden's White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain has violated the Hatch Act. This is according to the U.S. Office of Special Counsel. The Hatch Act prohibits executive branch employees from participating in political activities in their official capacity. Back in May, Klain retweeted a post by the Democratic Strike PAC, which advertised their merchandise. The watchdog sent a letter to Klain warning him not to do it again, but they didn't take further action. In the letter, the watchdog also noted that it is easy for executive branch employees to violate the Hatch Act. Liking, sharing, or retweeting a post that solicits political contributions on social media all count as violations. Senator Bob Mendez from New Jersey is facing a second federal investigation. In 2017, the New Jersey Democrat faced charges of conspiracy, bribery, and fraud. The charges could have resulted in a decades-long prison sentence, but the federal case ended in a mistrial after a deadlocked jury. At the time, prosecutors alleged the senator accepted over $600,000 in exchange for political favors. It is not yet clear what charges Mendez could face this time. Two sources familiar with the latest investigation said that the inquiry is similar to the case in 2017, but involve a different group of people. Mendez will be campaigning for re-election in 2024. The latest allegations may weigh heavily on his campaign. In the U.S. Navy and Army conducted nearly a dozen hypersonic weapon experiments yesterday. That includes a rocket, which Navy officials say gives the U.S. a competitive advantage.
So the threat is really against Russia and China, particularly, and it is really to get after some of the targets that they've got that over time they figured out how to defeat some of our other capabilities.
The experiments were part of the Pentagon's latest efforts to develop a new class of weapons. Sandia National Laboratories ran the test from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia. They also evaluated hypersonic weapons communications, navigation equipment, and advanced materials. The United States and its global rivals are accelerating the development of hypersonic weapons, the fastest next generation of weaponry.